Welcome to episode 150 of Outside the Circle, a podcast dedicated to new and upcoming country artists, musicians, and songwriters. Today's guest will be Bobbi Jacobs, founder and CEO of Wildflower Entertainment Group. We'll get to her in a little bit, but first, I'm Ronnie, and here's Brian.
It's happening, man. 150 episodes. What a wild, wild number. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny. We were talking about it at the end of last night when we recorded the interview, and we're like, yeah, man. I mean, like, what the hell else are we gonna do? Like, this is just our thing now, and I love it. I love that the outlet that you and I get to have with talking with musicians. I mean, neither one of us are like full-time working musicians, and so this is such a good outlet for the two of us to be able to like speak to people, speak to amazing artists, speak to professionals in the field, and get that little itch of musicality and everything out of our systems. And then, yeah, man, make some really cool friends and become fans of some really good music.
Yeah, I was actually just having that conversation probably over the weekend. Naturally, on the golf course, sitting in the golf cart, I was talking with the buddy that I play with pretty much all the time, and he knew we were coming up on 150 also, so he was asking some questions about it, and just the fact that like. I mean, you and your musical career much further along than I ever would be. But my like drive and love for music, this gets to like keep me in the game. And I told them how I joke that I want to quit all the time and you yell at me to cut it out. And but like the truth is like you're right. Like this is our outlet that like without this, I probably wouldn't be like talking music ever. And like, it's
Right.
not something that goes through my everyday life if it wasn't for this. So yeah, it's cool to, I mean, you mentioned the friends and it's awesome that we do this and get to do this and continue to do it. And, we could always say we should be much further along episode number view wise, whatever, but it was never about that and it'll still continue to not be about that. And it's the connections, it's the fandoms, it's the whether it's people finding us or whether it's us finding artists, it's yeah, the human element makes this so much more fun week after week after week, and I don't see that slowing down anytime soon, which is awesome.
No. And I think, you know what the most fun about this whole thing was is one, like the reason we did the podcast, right? The discovery of new artists, the discovery of finding new singers, new songwriters, and that has always been one of my most favorite things in the world to do. Like find a new artist that I really fall in love with and then share that with whoever's around me because they don't have a choice but to listen to what I'm listening to. And I'm selfish in that way. Uh, but what I really dig is like seeing the artists that we've had like all of a sudden pop up on like Sirius Radio, like on Highway or something like that. Or like seeing artists jump on much bigger podcasts after they've been on our podcast, like awesome little like node to things is really, really one of the coolest things. Like, oh yeah, I remember those guys. Those guys were cool as shit.
Yeah, and like secretly or selfishly, secretly, oh yeah, we were the reason for that success. Like if it wasn't for that one random Mobile, Alabama interview, then, but yes, no, it's awesome to see that like you say we become fans of people and not just the music but of the people to see people succeed is that's awesome. Yeah. And like you said, it's not just the music, it's the other people we've gotten to meet along the way. Like I've formed genuine connections with the PR people in outside of Nashville or in Nashville and around Nashville, and it's some of them are friends now. Like it's not just like the musicians that you know are on Sirius or are on Spotify or are, and this episode for sure is not like that either. And I think it's why we chose it to be 150. I think this is the perfect, kind of break it up a little bit, talk a little behind the scenes more than just, the everyday artist type conversation. So, yeah, I'm excited that this is 150, not only for us, but also then to have this interview be our 150 as well with Bobby Jacobs.
No, I agree. And if you're listening to this and you're like, wait, it's not a music artist, like don't hit the skip button yet because this is one of the most fun conversations I think we've had in 150 episodes because like it's so informative. She's so into the music. She's so into like artist growth and like there's so much stuff that the common listener doesn't understand about the music industry. The hours and miles upon miles she's putting on vehicles to get artists discovered and help them walk through the door. One of the coolest ladies we've ever had. So I'm really excited for this one.
Yeah, yeah, it's and that's just we don't really have to sell it too much, but if I have to sell going into the interview here, if you're still here ready to listen to it, um, you know, Matchbox 20, Mariah Carey, Tina Turner,
Yeah.
just the start. So, yes, listen in, get informed. I said it in the interview. I learned more in that 45 to an hour than I have in 3 years of being a music as a business student. So, yes, yeah, let's just jump into it. Let's put on Bobby Jacobs. All right, everyone. We're here today with Wildflower Entertainment Group founder and CEO Bobby Jacobs. Welcome to Outside the Circle, Bobby. Thanks for joining us today.
You. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so this is exciting for us. We're now 150 plus episodes in, and we one of the things from day one we really wanted to dive into, not just the artists and their careers and the goings on that side, but also the industry as a whole. And this is really cool for us to kind of get the behind the scenes, the stuff that people don't normally think about. And so it'll be cool. And yeah, no, I'm excited. So ultimately, we're going to talk about the most recent success of your event Heartland and the impact that it had on wellness resources for farmers and ranchers. But before we dive into that, like we do with our artists, we always kind of like to get a little background. And kind of let's work backwards and start with the creation of Wildflower Entertainment Group. Tell us a little bit about your journey to eventually founding the company.
So, thank you. So, Wildflower basically was created, and I just love the name because, well, hey, Wildflower here. Somebody sent me that in the mail. It was really sweet. So, Wildflower is kind of like a simple symbolism of me, and like kind of my crazy ways about not being afraid and being a little wild and untamed, but in a good way. As far as it was created as basically it's half industry label services. The core of everything is breaking artists' careers. So everything of what I do always has the center of breaking artists' careers. And there's always some sort of philanthropic charity kind of tied in some way, shape, and form, and it always morphs and molds according to where we are and what we're doing. But Wildflower was created as really as a vehicle to help artists in today's world in the industry. And it could be an artist that's on a label or not. It could be an independent artist or a signed artist. It doesn't have, I'm not biased to that, but really it's about educating artists and helping them out. I mean, helping them maneuver this crazy industry that we're in now, that is very different. It keeps changing and changing and changing and changing. And it's always been changing from my whole career, but it's now radically changing because of AI. And it's just I'm not afraid of, I really hate technology, but I'm not afraid of it. I just don't, I mean, I just have to school myself in it. And it's something that my demographic is not really keen on necessarily. So about like really diving in because it's like it's very like vast and scary. But at the same time though, it's imperative. I was at this Walmart summit called the Heartland Summit, ironically, and the one of the speakers was saying that AI is making cell phones or computers like a tinker toy. Like that's nothing like compared, and really how much that changed our lives so many years ago. And so when he said that, it resonates with me going, oh my gosh, I need to figure out my cell phone now. Like my husband, this is funny. My husband, I dial my number and my husband, his picture and his number shows up. I don't know how to change that. I need to go to Verizon again. But the point of it is that, just to kind of embracing it, not being afraid of it. And, but like Wildflower, the focus is really, truly being a part of artists' careers, being a sounding board, connecting people, opening up doors, being a cheerleader for the artists that are the little itty bitty babies that just need love and TLC. And, not every artist is going to break, but that's okay. Everyone also has a definition. Every artist, when I meet them, I'm like, what do you want from your career? Because you can't say you want a number one record. You can't say, oh, I want to fill a stadium. Okay, that's fine. Good luck. But that's like this percentage. But the point of it is, what is your, if you love music so much, do you want to just write music for television and film? Or do you want to perform at your church? Or do you want to make people happy? Like some people just want to perform and just continue performing and build their base. But there's no wrong answer to it because it's art, because it's their life. And I don't ever want to be one that ruins their bubble, like bursts their bubble. I've had crazy stories. I'm not going to lie in my career where you all of a sudden take an artist on the road. This is years ago. And I was traumatized. I'm not, I was traumatized. I was doing a whole West Coast run and the artist, really good song. I mean, sounded good on the CD player when you played it in your car or, in your office. And he went to perform in person with all the radio stations like up the way,
Right.
and he couldn't sing. I
Oh,
was like, I've never had that in my whole life ever happen. I'm like, oh my gosh, wow. Wow, you can't run away from this one. Yeah, that his career, bye-bye. But I was sitting there like, I've never had this happen before. So I've definitely gone through the gamut of things. On the other side of Wildflower is Backstage Access Presents, which is our vertical for events. And so we specialize in private events, thematic type of events like a Heartland. We created Heartland because I'm from Iowa. And I really wanted to do something nostalgic. Like when you think of things, you think about what drives people to go buy a very expensive, VIP ticket. What drives people for the artist? Like it's for me, I've always been like educating people or in my life around it's never about the biggest artist ever. It's about they're expected to do great. It's always about the best experience. It's
Yeah.
like when you go to Napa and you have a glass of wine. I was just there with my husband a couple weeks ago, and you remember the moment with that glass of wine, or maybe that song that happened at the certain moment. And so we really wanted Backstage Access to be the jumping off point with Heartland, to be that nostalgic feeling of basically, being in Iowa, being in the heartland, being with all these amazing people and artists that are tied to the land. Ironically,
Yeah.
every artist I booked before I picked the charity, 11 out of 11 artists, 9 of them are from a ranch or a farm.
mhm.
I didn't even realize that. So I was like, that's cool. And that was a fun thing. I'm like, this is great. Because they knew exactly what I was talking about. And I was like, this is what it is. They're like, oh, yes. So it was really cool.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely meant to be in that sense that those artists are there. And I kind of want to. So you mentioned being in the industry and things changing over the years, and especially like you said now with how quickly and rapidly things are changing. Really since COVID, right? Since the social media, the streaming, the AI, and all this keep going. So I found a magazine the other day from 1991. It was a New York Yankees like program, I guess, from it wasn't like a stadium program, but it was just a magazine about the Yankees. And in it was a Ticketmaster ad, and it had in very little writing the like next 10 artists performing at the 3 venues in town. I can't imagine having to sit around waiting for that, like with how instant everything is now. I'm sure, kind of going back to what you were saying about that gentleman who unfortunately played those shows for the radios but I guess in that sense, like that's got to be probably one of the biggest differences is you kind of know these artists now ahead of time. Like you have such a deep dive on them and Chat GPT, you type their name in and there it is. Everything's right there. So I'm sure, going from the radio world to the streaming world to that's probably a quite the learning curve and adventure going from one to the next.
Yeah, it is. And what's crazy is that everyone has their own way of research, like how do you go check an artist out and how do I go pick an artist or how do I lead into one or how do I think that, put my name kind of like my little stake in the ground. And it's crazy because I literally do, and this is something that is probably because of, how I was, not raised, but how I grew up in the business, where when I started, there was barely any call out. I mean, like it really didn't exist. There was only like the big radio stations that did call out research. And that's like when I don't know if you know what call out research is. We won't bore anybody with that. But now every single thing is based on, I talked to somebody today and they're like, oh, well, this artist doesn't have enough streams. But I'm like, but they can move tickets over here. Well, they need to be over here. And I'm just like, oh, wait, 'cause I go by my gut. And that's the way how it was a part of all these artists' careers is not because, I mean, it was like Matchbox 20. I drove Rob Thomas and the guys in a minivan for a year, knocking, no, truly knocking on doors. And by the way, there was no cell phones and there was a box. The cell phone was like this big. Um, and I have a pager back then. And and we went to radio stations. There was no, by the way, MapQuest. No, I had my he called the radio station and went to the AAA Atlas, wrote down at the, AAA what the directions were. And then would look at the tower when I got to these teeny little towns, because I basically covered everything west of Michigan. It was like Michigan, Ohio, all the way over to the West Coast. So I would zigzag up and down the United States. And so we would literally look for the like little antenna. I'm like, oh, radio station. And you call them. You could get off to the payphone, but then you didn't have the change in your pocket. It was just crazy, like that time. And you would go into and the guys would sing and you would watch the reaction because this is like what I love to do. It's like now I'm obsessed with Zoom. If people don't want to Zoom now, God forbid, before COVID, no one wanted, I mean, you were like, you wanted to see each other in person, but you're like, meh, you can kind of get away with it and you could be on a phone. Now it's like, if you're not in a Zoom, I want to look at people's reaction when I say things. I want to know their body language. I want to be, it's the same thing in person with when I would take the guys around is, I could just watch people to be like this and at the end, they're like, open their arms and happy and clapping. But you always followed your gut back then and you didn't have all the technology. Now, I'm not saying it's bad, but the point of it is I wish it would be more of people relying on their heart and in their ears. There was this thing years ago, way before your guys' time, called the air competition. And you should look it up. It's pretty fun. It was amazing. It was the thing in the business. And by the way, it was based out of Baltimore, Maryland. And they would call radio programmers all around the country, and they would have them rank all the songs. So there's probably like back then there's like 65 releases a week, like at one format, let's just say. I can't remember, but they would actually rank them and then you would get points and the winners would get cash, would get cars, would get whatever. And it sounds like, but it was amazing because they always, I mean, it was their ears. They didn't use anything, but they didn't
Yeah.
hear the songs before, a lot of them. They would play them on on the phone or send them over. There was no computers, no nothing. It was just it was just good old fashioned guts. And that's what I think I really wish that people would kind of go back to that a little bit and just rely upon their intuition, not necessarily only the research, because it makes me crazy when people are like, well, it's not calling out. I'm like, but it's
Yeah.
amazing. Like, did you see they just sold out blah, 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 blah. Well, and so it's, that's kind of the world we're in, with demographics and all those fun things.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of like a sports coach team just running off of stats and data versus just seeing a guy or a girl, a natural pitcher, throw the ball. They might not have the background, the stats, the data to actually have it, but they have the power, the heart, and everything else is there. Um, you know what I really love, and I think we've talked about it maybe a handful of times, but the we're always talking to artists, songwriters, and stuff like that. I don't think many people realize the army that's built up behind these artists and stuff that gets them to the whatever that stage, that festival, and like yourself driving up and down the country, zigzagging across. I'm sure I could only imagine the stories you could tell us in this hour of just road trips. Um, and then yeah, you know the industry being that it's you're the helper, you're the person there that's making that connection, I think is so important, and I think is really understated in the industry as far as what we see, what's on stage, not what got them there, so I think this is really really going to be a fun one.
Yeah, the sun, I always say the sun, the moon, the stars have to be aligned on top of the call out, on top of the tenacity, on top of the staff and the relationships and the relationships and relationships, because it still is based on relationships. And this is where the youngins, I call them the youngins, they don't know that. They're like, I'm just going to email. I'm like, oh, don't email, Zoom or fly there or, talk to people. And, because there truly is an army. And now it's an army times an army. If you want to go, so if you just want to release songs, there's a lot of amazing, successful artists that release. All they do, release, 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 release. Just keep releasing. And there's some of them have a plan. I always say, what's your plan? I like that's kind of what I do with artists all the time. What's your plan? They're like, I don't know. I'm like, well, if you had $1 million right now, what would your plan be? I don't know. Well, you got to figure that out because you don't have any money right now. So what do you want to do if you had money, if you had a label, or if you had a budget? How would you spend that money? Because I guarantee you, if you line up, this could be a question for your future artists. If you line them all up, everyone will tell you something different. Some
Yeah.
will be like, oh, I want to spend it on my content, or wait, I want to spend it on my DSP team. I want to spend it on a lot of people can't go to radio now because they just can't. I mean, it's just a team. You need an army behind you. Um, so
And I think also you always hear about in Nashville, like people trying to find their voice, right? You need to find your sound. You need to find that. And I think to expand that is to be, you need to find your plan, right? You need to know what it is, what that career trajectory is. And like you said, I mean, do you just want to sit at your home computer and record songs and dump them onto Spotify, or do you want to bust open your heart on stage and rock out to a bunch of people? Do you want to start a record label? Do you want to that whole type of thing? And I think that's great. And it's super great advice for any new artist too, is like, you do have to find your sound. You do have to find your voice. That is one step, right? That is one step. But knowing the plan that's going to take to get you to that, to get you to the next venue, to get you, in front of people. Um, we started the podcast pre-COVID. And I mean, if it wasn't for COVID, Zoom would not be what it is, right? So
no way.
we had
No,
we had Skype, and I don't know if everybody remembers Skype, but it was
terrible.
it was garbage. And so we would do Skype calls, or we would just do it over like a phone and just have it connected to the computer, and that's how we did this podcast starting out. And I mean, it was like what, a year we did that for, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, the end of the world happened, and then all of we have the technology that we are on now, which expands so much. I mean, we're able to, like you say, look at each other, know we're not in the same room, and nothing beats being in the same room with somebody, right? But the next best thing is that we can have this conversation a half a country away from each other. So I think that's pretty amazing.
Definitely. Well,
Yeah.
that's the thing, like with everything you just stated, like these artists, it's not, they're like they don't understand talent is, but this is another sad thing, or well, not sad, it's just reality, is it doesn't matter. Talent is only a part of it. I mean, because you might sound like all these other artists. I mean, you have to find what if the label will sign you, but then what if the next best thing comes in and then you're bye-bye, see you later. And a lot of artists are getting dropped by labels now because there's just too much. It's just too much. And independent is kind of a thing, now more than it ever has been. I don't know if you know who Drew Baldridge is, but he's like
Mm.
amazing. Like he's a dear friend. I love him to death. Phenomenal human. Most importantly, phenomenal human. And he did it, but he did it. He went out because of COVID. He went out and did 300 shows, got paid a guarantee, funded his #1 record. But they're also the sun, the moon, the stars, and everything had to be aligned. But now he has a label, imprint, and he's signed artists, and he's had multiple successes on the chart, and but he's tenacious as all get out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I mean, you just the timing is everything. You just never know. And so you just have to push through. And also some artists, I created this house party like kind of concept. By the way, it's not like I'm the only one that does house parties, but like people do house parties. But like I put together this kind of like this tour. And but what's really interesting about it is I can't put artists on house parties that don't like to talk to people.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Or it could be suicide.
Yeah.
You have to like you have to perform and knock them out, no, knock their socks off. Then you want to sell their merch.
Right.
Then you need to, be tenacious and engaging and talk to them and smiles. And even if you're in a bad mood or don't feel well, you got to just keep going. And, and then like when you think about opening up on a tour, you might get $250. You
Yeah.
might get $500, knowing you're in the hole every single, but you have to just keep going. Repetition, repetition, repetition. Posting on socials, posting on TikTok. God. I mean, I talked to an artist tonight. She came over and like, I like do a little like helping her every 2 weeks. We do like a little meeting. And I told her 2 months ago, every single day you're going to post on socials. And she's literally like calling me like, this is horrible. Like, I'm just dying inside. I go, nope, keep going. You're 18 years old, keep posting on socials. And now she's starting to see little kind of things, like little tiny glimmers. But that's the point though. You just have to be, it's not, you have to be tenacious and driven and then pray a lot.
Yeah.
Well, Ronnie will take this one, but like, when we first started, I was not a socials guy at all. Like when he's like, we should post more. And I'm like, let's just do the podcast. Like it'll grow on its own and stuff like that. Man, he's been schooling me quite a bit lately on it.
Yeah, it's been quite the adventure. I'm not good at the repetition. I'm not good at the continuous. I expect to put a post up and it go viral and we make millions tomorrow, but that's obviously not going to happen.
Like, give me that recipe, please.
Yeah. But kind of in that same vein, like that's actually something, what, Brian, the last month or so, like literally 4 or 5 times a day, we're sending texts back and forth about social media and how we can grow on our end. Not even, obviously like we're here to help the artists and we want to continue to like, one of the things we tell artists is once you're on the show, you're a part of the family. If there's ever anything you want us to share, if there's anything you want us to post, we will gladly do that at any point in any time. Like, so, which is interesting because we always have that to post, but also like we want to post about ourselves too, right? To like help like push the show. And but kind of going back to the Zoom versus the face to face, and I'll actually be in Nashville at the end of October, and I reached out, humble brag, at this point in our, what are we, 6 years in now, we don't go looking for artists. We work with about 6 different PR companies, Christy included, especially Christy Aristo has been phenomenal for us. But it'll be the first time in Nashville since we started this podcast. I made it a point to put on their calendars, like, I'm going to be here. Let's grab lunch. Let's say hi. Because that's the important stuff. Like we can do this all the time, but we, just like everybody else, everybody needs help to make those connections. And
Village. We say that it takes a village. And
yeah,
Chris is amazing. She's one of my best.
yes,
I love her.
yeah, she's been phenomenal for us. And but yeah, so I'm excited. She was actually the first one that was like, yeah, definitely, like call me the week before. We're gonna hang out. Like, so, uh, but yeah, so kind of you mentioned Matchbox 20 before, and not only them, but other, like you said, thousands of other names, and especially big names. There's quite a feudal list there too. Um, I'm curious about we talk about the changing of the industries and the environments and what that looks like on a day to day, but kind of for yourself personally, having those experiences with bands that have gone on to this huge success, and like you said, now you're working with that girl every couple weeks to kind of help her at the start of her career, like kind of for you personally, like how is that those experience help drive to where you're working with these younger artists, and how I guess how you better influence them as they really hit the ground running early on in their careers.
Um, well, as far as with Kenya, her name is Kenya Reese. That's her name. She's 18 and she's a sweetheart. She lives like in this tiny little town called Elizabeth. Like I'm in Colorado. So she lives, and so I met her at this show she performed at, because I book it in the round, here in this little town I live in, just for fun. And so, but like I sit down with her and go through, who are you talking to this week? I give her literally a list of like 25 people to call. And then I say, you have to call all these people and like call them, email them, and text them. Now she's 18, so you have to think about the generation, the generational gap. Her mom and I are the same age. But the gap in the sense of, wait, but I don't want to be pushy, or am I maybe, no, 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 let's go pushy, 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 but not too pushy, but like, no, read the room. And so just like, so I'm the one that said, keep posting everything. And she's like, oh, and I'm like, keep going, keep going. And then we just talked about, we were just talking about how she had her Spotify. All of a sudden she has 20,000 streams on one song. She's like, I have no idea what happened. I go, just keep going. Just keep going. And she doesn't, she's literally works. She's 18. She graduated high school. She works 2 jobs, and all the money she raises, she literally makes enough money to then go to Nashville and then record another song and then come back. And she teaches herself everything. So she's amazing, like driven, and she doesn't have any, it's not giving it, it's not like, here's your more money, honey, here's more. Nope. She's like getting a real estate license to make more money to like keep recording. And she just recorded a song that was actually came out of Heartland. And I'm not going to say the name of it, but it was so well received that she went to Nashville and recorded it. And so we have somebody that is trying to get it to some people that could actually be perfect timing, because it's really very, very emotional. And so, but it's just all about, I know the saying, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's not going to happen overnight. Like it just doesn't. It just doesn't. And no matter who you are, it just doesn't happen overnight. And then there's these little glimpses, and you have to love it. This is your life. This is what you signed up for. You better be in for the long haul, and loving it. And Morgan Miles, we manage Wildflower, manages her, and she's amazing. She's been doing this a long time. She works her ass off. And she goes up and down because of, like, oh my gosh, this is great. I have these, things happen. And then, oh my gosh, it's like just tenacious. Like she just has to keep going. And even of doing it for many more years than Kenya, Morgan she just loves to perform, and she loves people. And that's what keeps her going, and she's really talented. Hello. But I can sing in the shower.
Yeah.
It's really about you need to want it so bad. Like I meet artists and they're like, oh, I'm like, bye. Because you're not going to make it. Like you don't have a prayer, because your parents have money, or you have an investor, or whatever it may be, you're not going to get it if you don't want it.
Yeah.
You have to want it.
I mean, and like you said, going back to what's your plan? Like you may have the money, you may have the backers, you may have everything. And if your plan was to make a record, check mark, right? But like, is your plan to like have that one record and then, disappear? Or is it to have a lasting career? And I think that's where it's great that you can step in with that roadmap. Be like, Listen, here's the roadmap. I'm not going to drive you though." Like,
Yeah, how do artists make money? Okay, merch,
yeah.
merch and ticket sales, touring, merch, sync.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
kind of it. Like, well, unless you're a gajillion streams and whatever, or whatever that is, then you're maybe this percentage. But at the end of the day, though, those are your lanes. You
Yeah.
know, a lot of artists, a lot of artists are like, you know what? I've got my I've got my sound, I've got my jingles, I've written a couple things, I mean
Yeah.
and that's what they do. Some artists have a couple hits along or a few hits a long time ago and they have a couple syncs. They're like sad. They have mailbox money forever.
Right.
It's just, but like I said, it's all about, you got to network and have timing and keep going and not give up. And that's like some of it as well. That's as important. Talent is only a part of it.
Yeah.
The tenacious attitude and just, really truly not giving up is the other. Or when are you going to throw the towel in? How many years are you going to give yourself? I mean, when I moved from Iowa to California, when I was like from Iowa to California, I'm like, what was my parents were like, what? And, and I was like, I'm going to be in the music business because I interned at Columbia Records. And they're like, you're crazy. Like, what are you doing? And I drove my little Grand Am out to California in 1991. And I said, I went to the Hard Rock Cafe and I said, I'm going to get a job. They go, oh, well, I interview, they go, you have the job. I'm like, great. And they go, well, I'm only going to work here for a couple of months. I just want to let you know, I'm going to give it everything I've got. They go, what? I go, no, in 2 months, I'm going to be in the music industry. And they go, yeah, yeah, yeah. See all these people that work here? That's what they all say. I'm like, you don't really know me that well. But months later, I got a job in the music industry and I just
Yeah.
wanted to do it. I love talking. I love talking to people and that was that. And so, yeah, it was a really fun ride for sure.
So this one's not on our list. It just popped into my head, but I have to ask it. So, we've talked about the changing in the technologies throughout the career and everything. But the one thing that we touched on too, or that you just touched on, was the way artists make money. And that has changed dramatically too since streaming, right? So before it was from like album sales and CD sales and stuff like that. And then ticket prices for concerts were a lot cheaper. And that whole, thing has been flipped 180 where music is free practically with streaming and stuff like that, but a ticket price to a major act is 100 to $200-300 or so. How has that navigation been throughout your career of like trying to pitch to artists, being like, listen, you're not going to make money at the door anymore, like
Well, I honestly think that it's funny because like no, they're not. I mean, it depends upon how big you are, how long you're doing it. Are you an opening act? Are you not an open? There's just so many things that play into it. But that's why, like, one of the things I've been working on is this like traveling private tour. And I say private because then they can do public shows and then they could do the private events. But I'm really trying to build this out right now. And I'm like Christy's helping me build it out in my team of Sam and Callie and we're really trying to put our heads together and go, how can we build out a private model where you can take artists through it, where you have the little baby artists who basically can tie their shoes. They don't know what's going on. But you need to get them out there and you need to basically say what's special about that person. And then you say, okay, we're going to put you on a few dates just to see how you do. But then you have the bigger artist that just needs TLC, money, and just exposure. And then you repeat, repeat, repeat. They get guaranteed payments. It's not crazy money, but at least they're getting something. You get them, and then you have all these locations in the country that are like, this is awesome. I want to brag to my friends that I've got all these cool artists that are nationally recording artists coming through. And I'm going to guarantee paying the money, give them a hotel room for the night. And then, you just keep going. Now, is it sustainable? Well, you can't do it for every, you have to get new blood. The whole goal is to have an incubator program to
Yeah.
bring them in, move them out, move them up, move them on. Just keep going and just keep filtering. And then hopefully you're going to be a part of these artists' careers to help them get paid, help them get exposure, but it's like, it's a grind. I mean, it's a grind.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't, I mean, I'm gone from my house a few days. I'm like, oh, I mean, it's a grind. It's hard. It's not like, oh, yay, I'm on the road. Woohoo. These artists are like, oh my God. It's just like posting on social media where they get a high, they love the entertainment and, with their fans. But man, I mean, it's a grind though. You might not have people show up. I mean, like I can tell you how many times of artists in my career where you go to their show and there's like five people,
Yep.
and then a year later there's 100, and then you can see the scale. Now you can see it a little faster, but like I was talking to somebody today and they signed an artist before they were signed as an independent, and they were signed and their artist is already at 1 million followers, and the stream everything's just like kicking in, and they're bluesy country rock. I can't remember the name of the artist, but I went to Instagram and checked them out. But like that's the thing. It's just a different, set of circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Y- So I kind of have to jump off script for a second. So going back to how I mentioned before we started recording that I lived in Los Angeles myself for a little bit. And when I was out there, I was a music as a business major. The 3 years of schooling I did, I'm not exaggerating. This 40 minutes I've learned more than I did in those those 3 years.
That's cool. UCLA?
No, so when I moved out there, I was going to Los Angeles Valley, one of the community colleges, and then I was moving down to San Diego State University, and then but in that move, I decided I missed the East Coast and wanted. I literally woke up on Christmas in 90-degree weather and said, "Yeah, I can't do this." And I moved 10 days later back to New Jersey. So, but like, I'm not even exaggerating. I literally learned more here in this 40 minutes than than that. But yeah, I mean, this is just so interesting, and I like Brian said earlier that not a lot of people think about this side of it. So I think this is going to be so awesome for that perspective for the average listener, I guess we can call them. But I kind of want to. So we keep kind of touching on Heartland and backstage access, and I kind of want to like really dive into that side of it now. So you know like I said, this past August, you held your Backstage Access Presents Heartland. I believe I saw more than $100,000 raised for the Iowa State University Foundation. Kind of, I guess, first and foremost, kind of take us through how that event came to be, and the need for eyes to be on a cause like this for our farmers and ranchers and rural America. Yeah.
Well, I'm from Iowa, and so when I knew I wanted to do an event in Iowa, I knew that there was the Field of Dreams, and Tim McGraw was going to be there. So I'm like, how do I tie this all together? And so, because I'm a baseball freak, I'm a crazy baseball person. By the way, go Indians, Guardians, go Indians.
Yeah.
I have a feeling, or Mets, or not, or Phillies, no.
So I'm born and raised New Jersey. So we're Yankee.
Boston Red Sox. The Boston Red Sox?
Yeah, that's where me and Brian don't get along. He's all Boston. I'm all New York. So
So, Heartland came to be, and, I was doing the Field of Dreams event. I'm like, oh, my friend, it works with him. I called him up. I'm like, hey, I have an idea. I want to do this event. I want to make it Uber VIP, and I want to tie it into Heartland with farming and, ranching, more farming because of Iowa, but ranching does exist. But really make it like farm to table, true farm to table, and really think about like all the kind of the term Iowa feeds the world is true. You go there, you're like, wow, lots of corn, lots of corn. But what was really interesting is that I called my friends, I called my brother, I called my friends in Iowa, and I called a lot of people that are associated with businesses there. And I said, if you had one charity that rings the bell, what would it be? I don't want it to be, I mean, I know what I think it is. And then everyone was like, mental health, I brought that up and people like mental health is a real thing. Well, then I started doing my research on mental health in farming and ranching, and suicide is massive in this, massive. It's bad. It's not as no one talks about it because they're always thinking military or something else. No, farming is it's terrible. And so then I would go to these websites and it would say donate here. I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm not donating. I don't buy that. I want a story. I want to know who created, like who's the best charity for mental health and farming and ranching in Iowa. And I went to Iowa University. Oh, it killed me for Iowa State. I was like, this is so painful. But it's an amazing charity, Iowa State University, and they're phenomenal people there. And so I finally got a hold of the people that run the ISU Foundation, and it took months. It took a couple of months, and I kept saying to people on our slides, I would say, "This is what we're going to be putting the money towards," but I don't have the charity yet, and it has to be a 501(c)(3). It just can't be like yeah, whatever, like winging it. You can't do that.
Yeah.
So we talked to them and we're like, okay, we want to do this. And then I've always, I, I'm gonna digress for a smidge, but I love fundraising. I love it. I've raised lots of money for other people, like way more than me. And I've raised money for so many things. And it makes me so happy to do this. So Keith, who works with us, Keith is like, I have a live auctioneer that's really good. I'm like, oh, live auctioneer. And he goes, no, 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 it's amazing. So then I'm like, okay. So then I knew that, we had like a George Strait hat. We had 5 guitars. We had like people in the community were like, I've got Iowa basketball women's tickets. I've got an autographed basketball. I've got, and there's like 15 items. And so we literally, had ISU get up and speak. They founded the suicide hotline in 1985 for covering like I believe a 5 to 8 state region. And what was happening is their funding was getting cut. And so this timing of this whole thing was perfect for us to help them out. I did not have any like expectation to raise like I was thinking, oh, 20, 25,000. That would be, I would be happy with that because there's like 200 people there. You just don't know what, you just don't know.
Yeah.
And so then all of a sudden, I'm sitting there and Adam Wainwright. So then there's somebody that bid $10,000 on a George Strait hat. And then we were like, oh, this is amazing. And then he stood up and he was like, come here, come here, come here. And I went over, he goes, I'm going to donate it back. I'm going to keep the donation. I want somebody else to have it. Then Adam Wainwright's like, I want to double that. And then all of a sudden, and then after, like, then it was like guitars were going for like, $8,500, $10,000 a guitar. And it was like, and these artists, these are very amazing artists, but everyone was so moved by it. I mean, like everyone could not believe it. And then everyone started jumping on the bandwagon. And then the guy was like, all right, everybody, I don't normally do this at something like this, small like this, but I want to have raise your paddles. And we do this, of course, at charity, but not like this tiny of an event. It's 200 people and they didn't really, but we said 15 minutes. We told them, you literally have 15 minutes. In 22 minutes, we raised $100,000. And then people were like, he's like, how many people want to make 10,000? Everyone's like 10,000. I'm like, holy crap. And then 5,000 and then 1,500. And then everyone's raising paddles. I'm like, oh my gosh. And it was like they're sobbing. The ISU people, they were sobbing. They were like, what just happened? And I'm sitting there like, thank you, God. Like I was like, oh, my parents. I was like, my parents were like looking down. So it was really cool. Very cool. So I was very happy.
Amazing. I mean, amazing. Yeah, that just got me a little misty-eyed too. I grew up in the hills of upstate New York. Not quite a farming or ranching family, but in that kind of a world. And it's understated enough that the goal in farming is to break even, right? And that's amazing. It's not a profitable business in any way. And you could only imagine the mental torment that goes through farmers in a year of just good crop, bad crop, how much stuff is completely out of their control. And all they're trying to do is just make all the money that they spent back in that one year. So I applaud you for that. I think that is such a great foundation, everything that you're doing, and I love the background behind it. Yeah, I'm amazing.
Yeah, it's like we're a little mighty team. We're tiny, but we're mighty. And we were blown away. And now what's really cool is we're taking Heartland on the road. So Heartland is going to be coming back to Iowa every year. And then we're going to also take it on the road. So we have some, Adam Wainwright is going to be doing a Heartland. He has a farm. So he's going to be leaning into his charitable efforts within his community for feeding the community. So he's going to be doing a Heartland event next year in Georgia. And then we're going to be having a couple happening in Texas. We're going to have one happening in Oklahoma. And so really we're open to, the Heartland concept if other people, really want to, how do you make it special? Not every event's going to raise 100 grand. It really happens. It just has to be for the right reasons. And it really was like this perfect, jumping off point for our inaugural event. So it was really cool.
I mean,
Yeah.
we definitely should try to get one here in the Garden State of New Jersey.
Farms there, come on, you've got some.
There's some big farms here. Actually, I'm playing a farm show on Saturday.
I
So
think there's farms there, yeah. But it's funny because the New York Yankees, there was I don't know all these people's names. There was one of the coaches, he's not a coach now, has a ranch, a cattle ranch. And so his wife called us and she's like, can we do a Heartland event in upstate New York? And they're like in Albany area. And then I was like, do you want to provide the meat for Adam Wainwright's event? He's got a hydroponic farm in Georgia. She's like, yeah,
cool.
like, well, you're baseball kind of oriented, like, why not? But you just never know though who's gonna, come up with, like, no idea is a bad idea, if the right intentions are behind it. And then you just never know. You got to put yourself out there, kind of like being an artist. How do you got to put yourself out there. Same thing with with being an entrepreneur, you got to put yourself out there and you're gonna get knocked down. I could tell you crazy stories that are not great, but you just have to be tenacious like you guys are, 6 years later doing what you all do. You just have to just keep pushing through. And I think I think that's probably one of the most frustrating things about kids of today, where they're like, they just want to give up, or I'll just move on, or I'll just not deal with it. I'm like, no, 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 no. My kids are not going to be like that. I can tell you that. They're both, first of all, they're baseball players, so they're not going to be like that. They know about getting knocked down, but you just have to just keep going no matter what.
Yeah, the world of like instant gratification, I think it should be, it needs to end. I mean, you do not get calluses on your hand overnight, right? So like you have to work at it. You have to push through it. You have to get thick skin. You're gonna get told no. You're gonna get told you suck a bunch of times before any type of success happens. And I think that is a lesson that is learned and not taught. So
Oh,
I
you suck. You'll be like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. So I want to talk about kind of from the musician standpoint of events like Heartland. So one of the performers at this one in August, Garrett Bradford, is actually an alum of ours. We had him on back in the spring. Phenomenal guy. It was a wonderful conversation, and I've seen a lot of his response to the event as well, and he's raving left and right about it. And but kind of from the artist standpoint, having you actually kind of said it at the very beginning how it turned out that 9 of the 11 had ranching and farming backgrounds, but kind of how is the support from these acts and their willingness to be a part of something like this, kind of help drive you forward and ultimately leading to these next iterations of them. What's the word? Iterations of.
freeze, whatever, whatever
Yeah.
you call it. Yeah, I mean, because I've been doing this for so long, I have a tendency to, just call upon call upon my friends and see, hey, you want to do this? Where are you gonna, and I was mapping it out going, okay, who would make sense for, who are my baby artists? Like, so I always want to highlight the little babies. So I picked a couple that I really think are incredible, Kenya being one of them and Cooper Riley. You got to check out Cooper Riley's song. It's really, really, really good. They're babies. They're like, she's 18, he's 21. They've been doing music, not that long, but they're actually on their, I feel they're on their way to having, a very long and prosperous career. It's going to take them a while to break, but it'll take a while for anybody to break. And so what I did is I mapped it out. I went to Iowa. I said, okay, here's the venue, here's the venue, here's the venue. And I'm like, okay, this is perfect for them. Here's the vibe. And then, here's the food, here's the vibe, building it up. Then I would go to the next one and go, oh my gosh, this is perfect for Annie Bosco, perfect for Jenna Paulette and Garrett. Like that's the pairings there. And then I did then the main stage, quote unquote, the dinner, at the lavender farm. And then I, picked, handpicked those, artists to be there as an in the round. And Adam, it's so funny, Adam randomly fell into my life. So funny, small world. But then he happened to be in Des Moines at a baseball event for the world or the whatever the Des Moines team is. It was some, but he was doing something for them. And so he literally drove an hour and a half with his manager. And then they did the event, then turned around, went back to Des Moines. So that was perfect. It worked. And then Drew Baldridge was actually routing in Illinois, right? And he was like close. And then it just worked out. It just totally worked out. It's so cool. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And to have an event like this, like you said, it was the first one, calling your friends, calling the people you've met along the way. And I think that speaks volumes to your character too, that all these people come together to be there for you in the sense of an event like this, just like you're there for the artists and having their back. And it's definitely, you definitely get the vibe that it's a very, I hate using that word, but you definitely get the vibe that you're definitely driving down a two-way street, and it's amazing to hear and to see. And it's, even though we're not the artists ourselves, to know that there's people in the world who are giving them the opportunities that they need, and connecting them is phenomenal. And you mentioned there's going to be more Heartland events happening, and kind of, I'm assuming, now that we're towards the end of 2025 here, a lot of stuff will probably be ramping up for 26. But is there, anything coming down the line that you want to touch on? What's next for Wildflower Entertainment? Where are you going from here?
So much going on. Wow. You know what? I cannot, like, you're gonna have to have me back because I'm gonna have a lot to say in like
Perfect.
a couple of months. So I have some things up my sleeve. And I love it because I've been working on a 501(c)(3. I'm really, really excited about that. I have that. I've got a series of events next year. And what's exciting, this crazy thing things fall into my lap randomly. It's randomly, but it's also godly in the sense of opening my mind and my heart to just meeting people and just having your eyes wide open. And I might be literally building out an entire platform. I just can't say what it is yet, but it's going to be really amazing. And I mean, and you will be like, yeah, you guys have got to come. It's going to
Yes.
be fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm going to be, and by the way, I might be in New York or the East Coast soon, so we have to all, meet up for sure. But yeah,
Yes, definitely, definitely. In the meantime, then, while you hit the ground running and get busy, and do you want to, speaking of socials and all that, do you want to like plug like socials and websites and stuff so our listeners know where they can go and get on board with you?
Bobbi Jacobs Music is my personal Instagram. And then Backstage Access Presents is also Instagram. We have Wildflower Entertainment Group. That's more of I mean, it's, we have a website, Wildflower Entertainment Group. That's more, I mean, really it's more industry, kind of focused. But we're going to be doing a whole makeover with it in the next 2 months. And so we're going to be having all these like bells and whistles kind of come in, with that. And then on Facebook, are you guys on Facebook? Okay, on Facebook, I have, I have to look because everything's my whole Bobbi Hawk Jacobs again. But that is my handles on Instagram, Backstage Access Presents, and then Bobbi Hawk Jacobs or Bobbi Jacobs Music. So
Awesome. Bobbi, you are an amazing human, and it's been nothing but a pleasure sitting here chatting with you. And no, this is great. I'm very excited to see what comes down the line. So God bless you.
thank you so much. Thanks, guys. And there might be some baseball things happening soon.
All right, so that was our interview with Bobbi Jacobs, and yeah, I mean, we could keep talking about her and her career and the artists that she's helped along the way, and but she kind of talked about all that, gave us her whole background in that, and there's so much to dive into there, but I think it's also important that one of the main reasons we had her on was the Backstage Access Presents Heartland event that she put on in Iowa. And I mean, just jumping into it, what a amazing event. The way she talked about it, there was a lot of pride and excitement for what's to come. And I mean, $100,000 in 22 minutes, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's a good payday. No, no, I love it, man. Like I said, I think she's such an amazing human. And I think there's a lot of parallels, mental parallels, the way that you and I think and the way that she thinks of like the helping the artist and get through. And I mean, to this day now, I like only play at farms. It's kind of just been my niche lately, and I think it's awesome. I think that without farmers in this world, like farmers, ranchers, there'd be a lot more hungry people on the streets, and I think they need as much help as humanly possible to try to get them on a better side, mentally on a better, I prior to this, I never would have thought that the breakdown of like of mental health in farmers. I never would have thought it until she started to say that, and it makes complete sense, right? When the only thing
Yeah.
you're trying to do is to like make all of your money back.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you just said it's without them, there'd be a lot more hungry people, but they're the ones going hungry, making sure that everybody else is taken care of, right? So to have somebody like Bobbi and not even her, but she mentioned in it, reaching out to her friends, her family, her just everybody she knew back in Iowa, and the overwhelming majority of the people around her, which speaks to volumes of who she is as a person, that mental health was the response across the board from everybody. And it just happened to fall into the farmers and ranchers world. But yeah, I mean, one as a human, I mean, we could keep saying it till we're blue in the face, but yeah, you just don't realize how much the community is affected with without them there, the outside community, but with what they're doing, their inside community. And it's just why, like, I don't know. So I'm so glad that this was the route that they went down. And she mentioned more heartlands coming kind of across the country, and I'm excited to see what that's going to look like.
Yeah, like I said, we definitely got to try to get one here in New Jersey in the Guarded State. I mean, it only makes sense at this point. But man, I want to thank, Bobbi Jacobs for coming on Outside the Circle. Everyone, please go follow Bobbi and the Wildflower Entertainment on all their social media pages and keep up to date with the amazing things that they have coming up. We want to thank, all of the artists that have been with us for 150 episodes, all of the listeners, and definitely look forward to many, many more. And we'll catch you next week.